All right, so we're going to talk about Chapter 5 of The Places That Scare You by Pema Chodron. I don't know how to say her last name.
Children, perhaps.
um,
Well, she does have those umlauts in there,
she
so
just,
children.
I've never,
Yeah, but those are Tibetan umlauts, I think. So
Fair enough, fair enough.
I never know how to pronounce umlauts. They're cool, but they're a mystery to me.
Well, that's fair.
As always, I have a bunch of notes in my physical copy of my book, but nothing. I haven't highlighted anything in the PDF yet. Um, so I did drop a link to the Lojong slogans. If anyone's interested in looking at those, you can either look at the PDF I dropped or Google it later. I only did that because she does refer to them a few times, and so I thought it would be good if anyone was wanting to like look over them. So to
uh,
start,
question. Sorry. I
yeah, yeah,
checked
yeah,
into them, and it seems there's like it's like a document which has two sets of them side by side,
yes,
and the set on the left is kind of weird,
yes, it
and the set
is.
on the right sounds reasonable. What's going on?
That's exactly my experience of them. Yes, but it's something. There's got to be a
No,
better resource translation somewhere. I didn't spend a lot of time looking for a better translation.
yeah. No, I think they are like genuine gems, and many of them are good. There's also 59 of them, which I have no idea how I can possibly fit in my brain. But I guess if you put them on a fridge or something, then you could do it.
Yeah, yeah. You put them on your fridge, you tape them to your mirror.
Yeah, but in order to do that, you first would have to understand them all, which, I mean,
Yeah.
um,
I
some of them are
personally. Hmm? I'm sorry,
crazy.
good.
Some of them are really hard to understand for
Mm-hmm.
an uninitiated person.
I agree. With stuff like that, what I would probably do is print it out and then highlight the ones that I really needed to focus on memorizing. And then I'd probably just carry that paper around and like when I needed to meditate, I'm like, what was that? What was that slogan again? I would probably pull it out and just kind of stare at it.
And there's a wild Max appearing.
Oh my god.
Max. Destroyer of ball jars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold
Hi.
on, I gotta get headphones so I can hear you.
Okay. Hi, Milo. Hi, kitty cat. Yeah, you joining us for book club? Yes. um. Yeah. Right off the bat, Pema goes hard over here with what seem like the greatest obstacles: our anger, our resentment, our uptightness. We use as fuel to awaken bodhicitta. So right off the bat, we're really encouraged to see the flip side of these things that we may see as weaknesses or failures in ourselves as the tools necessary to get to awakening the bodhicitta. So I really
I
love that.
mean,
Hmm?
that's basically a continuation of the theme that has been going through the book so far as like be open to your negative emotions
Mm-hmm.
and use them as stones to practice, stepstones in your practice, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Um,
mean, I might be maybe overly open to my emotions because I think anger is actually pretty cool in the sense that you kind of like get all ramped up and then you like smash people's heads and stuff, and basically it's like a protective measure, right? Like it helps you, right? But that's not really a Buddhist view. So
oh my goodness, you would
uh,
have liked. I think it was even last chapter that really she talked
I
about
missed
like
it. Yeah.
how one of her favorite emotions was anger
Because
Hooray!
because of how
Wow.
it brought focus and
yeah, and because it can help you stay awake during meditation.
yes, it used anger to stay awake in meditation was her.
That's
What's
amazing. I
yeah.
love it. That's great.
So if
Okay.
you get time, go read over chapter 4 then. It's got that
Yeah,
little
I'll
tidbit
revisit.
for you.
That's a great tip. Thank you.
um but so I even have a note for myself here as well while you say that about anger in the brain. I think when we're being really kind to ourselves, you accept that your brain is like it was designed like the meat part of it was designed really just to keep you alive, right? Its
Right.
entire goal is to keep you alive. It's not about being happy. It's not about being content. And so like all of the things that we see in ourselves that could be troublesome or these obstacles, like when we're being compassionate about it, I think we realize, at least I've come to realize, like, hey, that's just my brain trying its best to keep me alive. You know?
Hmm.
And I have to personally even remind myself of that, especially when I have those anxious days of like, why am I like this? Why am I so filled with anxiety? um so those anxious days where I'm feeling less compassion myself because I feel weak, I feel like I feel frustrated because that's not what my practice is about. It's not, and my mind wants to be so fixated, but my mind is just doing its best to keep me aware of the dangers in the world and
It might not be doing the best method for that, but it's trying.
it's trying really hard.
Maybe a little too hard.
Yeah, it is trying a little too hard, but anyway, enough of that rant, sorry. The slogans, Pema claims they're easy to familiarize ourselves with and challenging to remember to apply them. That's probably true. I'm going to continue to look for a better translation of the slogans. The one I found is a little iffy, a little touch and go. I haven't looked in the appendix, even though she said they were listed there.
I have.
And so then she goes on to say, one of the slogans is always meditate on whatever provokes resentment. And I thought that was interesting.
Well, resentment is a clear indicator of attachment.
Mm-hmm. Also might help you pause before acting out, as she says.
Yes.
Yeah. And then to touch on anger again for myself personally, this next paragraph where she says, hold on, I want this to be in green for my own purposes. Uh, when we are escaping the present moment with a habitual reaction, can we recall a slogan that might bring us back? And so not to specifically jump on like the slogan specifically, but when I catch myself reacting in a way that I just have in the past, I think specifically about getting really mad at my husband, right? Like just getting really ticked off or something. And that's a habitual reaction. That's a habitual reaction I have, is just to be mad. Um
You wouldn't
Fortunately,
like Des when she's mad.
uh I get mad way more often than I feel like I should. And so thinking of these things that can bring me back out of that, I think the energy behind anger can be very productive. As we talked about, it can kind of alert you to things, but it can spin you out of control as well. And I have to use those moments to come back out of it. And so I don't know about the slogans, but I have little things I know I tell myself in sort of a mantra way to help discourage fixating on the anger rather than just resolving the issue. Um, a lot of those have to do with the kind of person I would like to be, but I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if I'm recommending that as a very Buddhist route. It's just what I do. Um, I have goals of being a more compassionate and patient person, and so I think.
All paths lead to Buddha.
um, and then she talks about the three difficulties. I don't know what it means. Well, I kind of know what it means to train in the three difficulties, but I just thought they were interesting. The three difficulties are acknowledging our neuroses as neuroses, doing something different, and aspiring to continue practicing this way. I have said it so many times and I will continue to say it. My goodness, when you look at Buddhism through a lot of lenses and cognitive behavioral therapy, there are so many overlaps.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes, there are.
there's a wild amount of overlap, and so in that way I find it easier to remember these things because I've had so much cognitive behavioral therapy. And then to like come over here onto this side of things and tie it into my practice, I feel makes it easier and also a little more meaningful. Just a
Got
bit.
all that perspective on
Yeah.
it. Context that is usually lacking if you just come in from the Buddhist side.
Yeah. And so I've appreciated my background knowledge helping in this
Make
exploration.
that right now.
Well, how many times do you hear like the first step to solving problems is admitting you have a problem, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I hear that everywhere, and that's.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
But absolutely, I have to admit my faults before I can deal with them, and that's oftentimes part of the anger too, is admitting what part I had to play in that situation. Or
Because we want to think that we're paragons of everything right, and it can't be our fault or in any way have us be responsible. We're the ones that is angry right now, so clearly someone else messed up.
this can't be my fault. Nothing's
Right.
my fault.
Right. I'm perfect in every way.
And that's the ego. The ego doesn't want to get
Mm-hmm.
hurt by admitting that it is faulty. Or
Right.
Or maybe the other extreme that everything's my fault and
Oh
so
yeah.
and so on.
absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the other side of the same coin.
Everything's my
It couldn't have
fault.
been you. It's always my fault. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Absolutely.
it's an unintuitive sort of narcissism.
Yes.
And the way I vacillate between these two extremes at all times is really absurd.
Yeah,
Sim-
I always thought this was a matter of like protecting yourself, right? Like if everything
Yeah.
is my fault, then I have control over everything. Hooray, right?
Yes, I would say
Right.
that's probably definitely. Oops, I think I accidentally clicked Photoshop. Nope.
Oops.
Oh no, I closed it. It's good. Um. So yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a matter of dang it.
Dang it, Des.
What are you doing?
Everything is your fault
I
now.
was clicking on Discord so I could adjust someone's volumes and make them a little louder, and then I hit Photoshop, which is a button not far from my Discord button.
It's the wrong button, Des.
Do I need to be louder?
No, you're fine. No, I turned you up for
Okay, cool.
myself. I had to do it so I could hear you. Um, no, absolutely. So like I think you're right spot on with the control factor, right? If everything is my fault, that means I can change the outcome. And I think that oh my gosh, I want to say even somewhere in this chapter, if I can just do everything perfectly, somewhere she says like if I can just do everything perfectly, it'll be okay. Like oh, there it is. It's near the end of the chapter. If only we could do everything right, we'd be able to find a safe, comfortable, and secure place to spend the rest of our lives. And by God, if that's not the root of most of my anxieties. And I'll highlight that when we get there. Um, and then one of the things you can do is as train in these three difficulties is doing something different. And right down below, she explains the doing something different is anything. Hold on. Is anything that interrupts our ancient habit of tenaciously indulging in our emotions. And so it was funny to me when later in the paragraph she says anything that's non-habitual do, sing, dance, or run around the block. I think how many times am I told by therapists in the past to go do some exercise when I'm anxious to like break it up. I also know that one of the habits I've developed to deal with like fixations in my mind when like a thought tries like I feel it and if it takes a turn I'm gonna get stuck on it that I will just like randomly sing a line from a song whatever comes to my mind first like interrupt that thought process put anything in its way sing a bit of a song and I have used that as a tool to
Love
prevent
it.
myself from getting stuck in something.
I absolutely love it.
And so I love that I'm seeing it here because I'm like, hey, I was doing something right.
Mm.
um, so I love
Bound to
that.
happen sometime.
hmm Figure out something at least.
Right.
Yeah, I
Been
never
here
heard
long
of it.
enough.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
But is it like replacing? It's like what do you call it? Like a brainworm type of thing. So now your brain is playing a song.
So I
Is
don't.
that?
Um. Yes
It's a
and
kind
no.
of distraction. It's not exactly a brainworm.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
in earworm, no? Is what you mean, I think.
It like it's sort of
Yes.
like throwing something into a pond to disrupt the surface of the water. Um.
Oh, so it's just like temporary,
It's
not
very
like a replacement.
temporary, but it's enough movement to add to it that I can then go back to the thought that was occurring without getting fixated into it, like really stuck on it. It's a
It
it's like
helps widen your focus so that you don't get this tunnel vision.
yes, absolutely. That's exactly it. It widens the
Gotcha.
focus so I don't get the tunnel vision. That's perfect. Thank you.
That's pretty cool. I'm gonna try that.
Um so that's just it's one of the tools I've had to develop over the years because otherwise I will get stuck, like really stuck mentally. Um yeah. The third difficulty is that there's let's see. Remember that this is not something. Interrupting destructive habits and awakening our heart is the work of a lifetime. So, aspiring to continue practicing this way of things, right? But it is a work of a lifetime, which sucks because you just want to be like, man, I did it. I mastered it. I'm done. I did it. Um, and just reading that line of like work of a lifetime, I was like, 100%. Thanks, PTSD. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's it. I like where she says, in essence, the practice is always the same. Instead of falling prey to a chain reaction of revenge or self hatred, we gradually learn to catch the emotional reaction and drop the storylines. So in this paragraph, she touches on something that when I've done therapy in the past, or even when I'm talking to people about stuff, um, that
Tough.
I call it the narrative. What is when you think about like what the storylines that you tell yourself the what are the truths you're trying to convince yourself of or the non-truths, right? What are you repeating to yourself over and over? And so with these practices we can drop the storylines that are destructive. And I have underlined dropping whatever story we are telling ourselves about it and feeling the energy of the moment we cultivate compassion for ourselves. This was especially important to me one of these days this past week where it was not a good time inside of Death Brain. Um, it was a very bad time. And so it was very important to figure out how to drop the storyline, how to drop
Narrative.
the narrative about all of these what ifs and obstacles and troubles that feel like they are piling one on the other,
Mhm.
and come to a point of acceptance with them. I've still got work to do with that, but um, I think that this chapter for me reflects a lot of that, and it has definitely, I'm sure, shown in the way I've discussed it so far. Um, so my obviously what I'm pulling from this chapter is very biased in that direction because of
How dare you have bias?
I know.
I think these sort of narratives you talk about are something that you can see in other people. Like you listen to somebody talking about something and you realize that like it's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Like they're saying stuff that just is not true objectively, right? So it's kind of harder to see it in yourself. So this is almost like you're developing this like co-processor or second brain that's like, oh yeah, let's try a different perspective.
Yeah.
Uh, Ideally, we would just absorb somebody else's brain, right? But alas.
If only.
Maybe
Um,
one day.
I thought it was really interesting the next part where she says the irony is that what we most want to avoid in our lives is crucial to awakening bodhicitta. We talked about the beginning of the chapter and a little bit throughout is that this idea that our um, the things we see as faults, right? Uh, Being compassionate and embracing them is going to be what we need to awaken bodhicitta. She says these juicy emotional spots are where a warrior gains wisdom and compassion.
You hate to hear that. It's just like I want to feel nice and then continue feeling nice and never have to deal with sadness or fear or anger.
Yeah.
But those are integral parts of humanity and the human experience.
Right.
So it's better to get good at feeling them
Mhm.
than avoiding it, because avoiding it isn't actually avoiding it. You're just shoving it down until you either forget about it and it comes out sideways 2 years later in some sort of episode, or like you just have it come out in a different way, or it just comes back the same way stronger.
Mhm.
I know
Yeah,
I'm. Go ahead.
keep going.
Oh, I know I am certainly of the mindset to just suppress my emotions unless they're pleasant,
Yeah.
because why would I want to feel sad?
Mhm.
Um, but
So I had
go ahead.
no, you keep going. I'm
So,
a
yeah.
lagging or something. This is horrible.
No, it's your turn,
Uh,
Paula.
I'll just finish up real quick. The the pain of these emotions, the bad feelingness of it,
Mhm.
is itself where we find the wisdom.
Right.
It's about learning to more or less cope with these unpleasant feelings without letting them overwhelm you.
Mhm.
But that's not going to happen if you spend every waking second avoiding the experience, because every time it touches you now, it's so other, so different that it's overwhelming.
Right.
Okay, now you can go ahead and ball.
Thank you. I actually had a recent experience with something like this, where, like, I would, in a warrior way, like, go into these bad emotions and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And I would heroically resolve them, right? And no, no, really. But the problem was that this was like a type of iceberg, right? Like I would resolve something that I thought the problem is. Below that is a part where I don't want to go,
Mhm.
which
Right.
which stayed unresolved. But I had this illusion that like, oh yeah, I'm done, like I did it.
I did
You
it.
know, right?
hmm
So it's actually really hard. It's really hard to be aware, like on the deeper levels and stuff, and not fool yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm
Right.
just fooling myself all the time.
Sweet Ducka.
Sweet, sweet Ducka. Um,
Yeah.
and in these moments though, to tie it in with this paragraph here of so even when you're distracted like that, Bala, by the thing at the top of the iceberg, uh, and not wanting to deal with things of the thing below, you are practicing, and you're so you are well trained, right? Like you practice. If you can practice in these moments, then that's a good part of the training. And then doing anything we can to shake up and ventilate our self justification and blame is helping us get out of this trap. And so overall, I think what I like about this next paragraph and uh, the one after that is that overall is this emphasis on the fact that you're becoming aware. You're aware of these things now. And that awareness is absolutely going to be key to any further anything with that, right? Of do we see the stories that we're telling ourselves about like, oh, I'm done, or look how great of a warrior I am at the top, and then moving forward with that information.
Yeah, you can't work on your problems if you aren't aware of them. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So the fact that you're aware at all, I think is awesome.
Well,
And
well,
then
thank you. I can't really credit myself. This was actually somebody else's insight. I was
ah,
literally not able to see it. So, noble friends.
nice. That's awesome. And then in my case, where I had a complete meltdown at one point this week. When we can't practice when distracted, but know that we can't, we are still training. It is still the practice to realize in those moments I'm not practicing, if that makes sense. It's
Mm,
still practice to realize when you're not practicing. And so, even though I got caught up in my ego, I got caught up in all these storylines, I got caught up in XYZ, to be able to, at any point during the time when I stepped back, and I did a couple times, and was saying, I'm not practicing right now, and to recognize that was the practice as well.
I mean, yeah, it comes down to it. You're cultivating awareness.
And
yeah,
yeah, and I think that's all tied to self compassion.
Yeah.
And then some very practical insights of sometimes the way we see our ignorance, as Bala just gave a great example of saying that wasn't his insight, but it was a friend's insight. Sometimes the way we see our ignorance is by getting feedback from the outside world. So good job, Bala, just being like all over the place with good examples and tie-ins for me here.
Yeah, we rehearsed it quite a bit
We
before the
did.
show.
It was hours of practice, guys. Uh, particularly if they cause us to wince. I thought that was an interesting line. If it hurts to hear somebody say something, in my experience, if it's like a criticism or an insight into something how I'm behaving, it's usually worth looking into further because it's probably true on some level, or it reflects a truth. Um, I don't know. Like, why did that hurt? Why did that not feel good? Why was that feedback not comfy? Um, and figuring out what that means.
absolutely.
I think I
Uh,
would probably stress the noble friend here because
yeah,
it really should be someone who has your best interest in mind,
absolutely, absolutely. I think
right?
you're totally right.
But
Right, if it's
even,
coming from that friend who's like constantly critical and not necessarily like particularly close, like
Yeah,
that's a different story. But
but still, even if it's not a quote unquote friend, I mean, if they trigger us in some way, it's still pointing us towards something that we need to look at.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
I mean, in
goodness.
the end, um, right, we others aren't responsible for our emotions, so to speak. We
Mm-hmm.
are responsible for them, and we are, yeah, we need to manage them, whatever the source of the feedback is.
Yeah. No, you're right. Uh, oh, here's that line about the thing. Strong belief. If only we could do everything right, we'd be able to. Yeah. So, when we begin to train, we see that we've been pretty ignorant. First, it's hard to relax in the present moment. I know that. Second, we fabricate strategies to avoid staying present. Escapism happens. A lot of ways to be anywhere else than right here. I know I do that quite a bit. And then we also see our strong belief that if only we could do everything right, we'd be able to find a safe, comfortable, and secure place to spend the rest of our lives. I This is my anxiety. This is my anxiety and like why I try to forecast so far into the future because and I need to not do that as much, but like oftentimes I've planned my life out very step by step at least a year into the future.
Oh, Jess.
I know.
That's too much.
It is too much. But sometimes I also get that self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess maybe, of see the planning worked out, it made everything better. Which is its own conversation. But
Gotta love confirmation bias.
yeah, confirmation bias. Oh, Lord. I've experienced so much of it. Um that makes it harder to get out of things. I'll tell you what. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, look at all this confirmation bias. I was right all along, says ego, and then
Now
ego
I have to
tries
do
to.
it more.
I'm gonna do it more.
Yeah. 2 years
um,
this time.
I'm just stepping back into that conversation about awareness of like when we are denigrating ourselves, do we know it? Do we understand where the desire to lash out at another is coming from? Do we aspire not to keep going down the same old self-destructive road? Do we realize that the suffering we feel is shared by all beings? And that, in its own way, like as a revelation, I think can do so much to ease suffering when you realize how much of it is shared and not like uniquely your own.
Yeah. That's huge.
Um, it just it's weirdly comforting to know you're not doing this by yourself.
We're all having a shit time together.
Yay!
At least we have company.
Yeah.
Yeah, people usually don't share all the stuff that's going on, so you have no idea. That's pretty awful.
Yeah. Well, especially in a social media age, to touch on a subject like that of, ha- you know, hashtag best life or whatever. Like you just try to
Right.
present yourself as like, here are the best things that are going on in my life. Isn't that great? I'm amazing. Give me likes. And even on a low key level, like even if your primary or only social media is Discord, I think it's easy to get into a swing of not sharing the more vulnerable parts of yourself, right?
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and so,
But also you can share the vulnerable parts and hope to expect and expect applause for that as well.
mm-hmm,
That's a
Right.
bit of
Or expect someone else to try and solve it for you.
yeah, I do a
But
lot of.
even yeah,
I know,
just getting out there and saying it, you're like, yes, aren't I brave? I said the thing.
anti-brave. Let me outsource my dopamine.
Right.
Um,
exactly.
we can't expect always to catch ourselves. This is another moment of compassion for yourself. But as we can begin to do this more frequently and interrupting those habitual patterns, we know that the bodhicitta training is seeping in. And I like where she ends the chapter with "Don't expect applause," because I absolutely expect applause sometimes. And I can
Same.
feel it in my bones where I'm expecting to be like pat on the head, told, look
Right.
how good Des did.
Give me the sticker now.
Where's
Yeah.
my sticker and my snack?
Hmm.
And I think that that's it. I think that is a shockingly hard lesson to really absorb of don't expect applause
Yeah.
and be okay with that and be okay with the results of not being congratulated for your hard work.
Well, I mean, ultimately, you have to accept the hard work you're doing in the major way is for you.
Mhm. But that's not good
So,
enough. I want other people to know how good I do.
right. Where are my accolades?
Where are my accolades?
My fans?
That's a bit strange because you would think that a peaceful mind without suffering would be a wonderful reward on its own.
Yeah,
Like, where do the other people fit in?
to give me accolades.
I
to
mean, you would hope that no amount of accolades they can give you can possibly compare to like the amazing peace of your mind, right?
Oh,
absolutely,
Right?
Bala. That's what I want. I want to be so at peace. I don't need nobody. But
the thing is, getting to that point,
it's
you're gonna want those accolades.
yeah.
Like, you
For,
don't need them.
Walk
By all
around
means, you
and
don't need
yeah,
them, but you want them.
you want them. Ego wants them.
Uh huh.
yeah,
We wants it.
so
We
good.
Right.
wants it.
The precious.
The precious. We wants it. So overall, I would say I really dig this chapter. It helped me work through some stuff. I reflected some of my experiences this past week personally, and I think it has some great little insights about compassion and awareness and all that
Hey,
jazz.
Des,
Yeah.
you did good.
I'm Des.
There, you Des.
Yeah. Good job, Des.
Look at
You did it.
my little head pats. I get a little gold star. Anybody have any other insights they want to share?
Soulful insights. That's my insight.
Ooh.
It's a meta
Oh,
insight.
a meta insight, yeah.
That's right.
Well, maybe one insight, like, so I'm in this for like the cool stuff, right? Like all the amazing states of mind and etc. Nirvana, so on and so forth, right? Don't underestimate like pedestrian methods like paper on a fridge. You know, like don't just go for the amazing. There's a really boring, really pedestrian work
Oh
that
yeah,
gets you there.
right. Don't get caught up in the flashy shit. I mean, that's cool too. Go for it, but maybe stick your head in the mud and figure out what's in there too.
Yeah.
Exactly, but I mean, like, why should a piece of paper on a fridge make you a better person and be the things that changes you? Yet it
What?
can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? I
Be
mean, why?
humble.
Why shouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like it can really make the difference.
Mhm. Yeah.
Let's all try and be pieces of paper.
This is the moral of today's story. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Glad I was here.
All right.
All right.
We did it.
We did it.
Go team.
Woo.